Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale with the Modern Agents Group and Modern Agent Team and Real Estate Skill Builder, of course. And we are here for another episode of Real Estate Talk TGIF, number 240. Yep, I like to promote it's 237 weeks in a row. And today is another great day of someone I have just recently met, but have been following for years as a top real estate broker and agent, as well as her coaching and what she's done all in development and everything and building and whatever. But Amy Ransdell, thank you so much for joining us today. How you doing today?
I'm great, and thank you for having me. This is an honor. This is a big deal, so I appreciate it. You've done such a great job with this podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Amy, who's a peak performance coach and there's an awful lot of stuff. And I'm going to give you a really great intro in a second. We'll be right back. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent Team. So we're back, as I said we would be. And so I'm just going to read a couple of things about you, Amy. You're a leading expert in peak performance and behavioral change, peak performance coach. You're founder of Rules Rewritten, as we see there, where top tier performers pursue the unreasonable by rewriting the rules to do life on their terms. Yes. I am so interested in that. You're also a real estate broker owner, Powerhouse Real Estate, your choice for Atlanta. You have over 20 years of active entrepreneurial ownership in businesses within real estate investing, broker ownership, high volume sales team, strategic consulting. It goes on and on and on. But your real focus of life is really the coaching. Is that right?
It is. It is. It's really their lives. And that's really what we've always done and everything we've done. So, yes.
Right. And I've seen you, followed you through social media over the years. And I actually tried to connect with you a couple of years ago and then slipped my mind. Then I went to my list. I said, oh, I've got to get her on. So anyway, here we are. So of course you didn't start as a peak performance coach, but you've got an interesting start to peak performance and peak performance coaching. So could you tell us your story about how you got into where you are from as many years back as you like?
Yeah. So I love this question. The different versions I'll get asked this question because what we do in our coaching, I am the story of why and what we do. So I was a kid. I had a messed up childhood necessary for me, my perspective as the child. And so I had things happening to me when I was younger that just didn't serve me. And it started this obsession, if you will, to understand all the ways that I could feel better, be better, have a better life, because I knew that God had created me to have that. And yet I wasn't. I was self-sabotaging and running circles and making decisions that didn't feel in alignment. And I was curious and cognizant of that at the same time. So I was kind of living in this dichotomy of life when I was younger. Where it really served me was that to figure my own issues out, I started down a wormhole of obsession and everything that had to do with human behavior, human performance, psychology, neuroscience, biochemistry, and organizational structure or organizational behavior. And that led me down my career paths in a way. So my first corporate job was actually in training and development, and I worked with people to help them sell better. And really where I worked with them was from the angle and a way that nobody else was considering where I was at such a young age in that particular environment. I was working with people at their level of beliefs and identity and helping them change behaviors and elevating who they were in order to get results. And it was creating a lot of waves where I was. But then from there, life does things to us, which is really the foundation of our company now, is that life hands us all kinds of things that we create rules for our existence from. And we can come back and touch on that. And that led me down paths of making decisions to go and do things that were in alignment with my wanting to be creative and a builder of things and to, create things that resonated with people. And also not necessarily in career paths that I probably wanted to do originally. So I ended up in real estate. And that was one of the many things. So I was an entrepreneur by nature. So I like to build things. So I ended up in real estate. Now I've been in real estate for like 21 years now. Throughout that time, we've run every type of niche and different type of structure you can imagine. There's been one running theme through all of that, is that from college, my early years, to corporate experience that I had, to all of this experience in real estate, is that it takes a human to do their job well, to perform well, to feel good, to come to the world as in a great state in order to get results. And so all those years, and no matter what we were doing, really what I would do was end up coaching, right? Is end up helping people step into that. So that's really been my story, is that throughout my entire career, I have been, in fact, a performance coach. However, we didn't come out with a company that was centered around that until the last couple of years. So, but that is who I am.
That's that. I mean, just the way you came through everything and you knew where you're going. So I've got to get into right away to Rules Rewritten, right? Talk to me about Rules Rewritten and what it means to rewrite rules. And then I'll have a couple more ideas in there as you go along.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, to speak to all of my rule breakers that are probably following along here, right? Yeah, right. Like we're those rebels that come to the world and we want to like rewrite everything that the world hands us, right? Like, and from a tactical surface level, rules are meant to be broken. For most of us, we want to be innovative. We want to find a new way to approach things, which might mean that the old way or the status quo way of doing something doesn't exactly work for us. And those of you that are listening, you can think of all kinds of rules that you're like, that doesn't really work for me, right?
Right.
And that's life, right? So we tend to be, most of us, many of us, if not all of us, we tend to be, how can we make adjustments to do things the way we want to do them? And also, the reality is that for all of us, me included, you included, every one of us, are all carrying rules that we have adopted within our life that define our identity and our beliefs and our behaviors. And what I mean by that is that from the moment that we're born and even before, we have things that happen to us in our existence that we bring on as a micro adjustment to how we see the world, and therefore how we rise up and step up to certain situations and things. And they become rules of our existence, how we were raised, what our family says we should do, our expectations. Well, maybe you were raised in a culture where you should only pursue a certain type of career or a certain type of family structure. Maybe you were raised with a belief around money that is the way that your family believed around money, and it created a rule for you for how you see money, but that's not a rule that really works for you in the career that you're wanting to go in now. Right. They just become these micro rules. And so what happens is that we come along through life, and if we don't adjust them, if we don't break those rules and find new ways to write them like we will do other rules, right, then we will have those things create limitations on our life. And so we won't necessarily pursue what we really want and step into who we really want to be at the level we want to, because we let the rules get in the way. And that's really what the company, or what Rules Rewritten about, is about helping people unlock, uncover, discover where rules are what's dictating their life versus what they really want life to be.
So when we talk about rewriting the rules, because rules are meant to be broken, do we sometimes get into a pattern of rewriting the wrong rules, like what others want us to do, right? So we think that we want something, and we think that this is the way to get there, and we put ourselves back into the old freaking pattern. Does that happen a lot?
Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, so here's something that we run into. I run into with so many people, working with people over the years, and even myself, I've been here, is that if we don't have a really clear picture of who we are and where we want to go in life, then we don't have a good filter. And from that filter, are we able to choose and decide what does fit within alignment with who we are and what we want? One of my favorite quotes is Yogi Berra's quote that, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. And this is where a lot of us sit for most of our lives. We don't really know where we really want to go, and where we want to go also dictates who we would need to be when we are there. And so we'll go through our whole life doing all the things that get thrown at us, handed us, shiny pennies, squirrels. A traumatic event happens and we make a survival decision to go in a certain direction. We make a decision on a business because we don't necessarily are a business partner, because we don't believe in ourselves enough to do it on our own. Like, there could be so many things in so many ways where we'll go and make a decision that isn't in alignment with who we are and what we want, because we didn't do the work to figure out what that was. And that's, I think, the most essential piece for everyone, is to stop and do that work. Otherwise, we are at the mercy of what life dictates for us versus what we dictate.
So when we look at what people want, and like you just said, I love the quote by Yogi Berra, because I'm a Yankee fan, so I know a lot of his quotes off the top of my head, and I use them every now and then, and people go, huh? Anyway, so but I think about that, and it's so true, because a lot of people think they want different things, and they look at how they were brought up. And we talked about this the other day, how we were brought up, and that's what we believe, and we get these beliefs of what we can do and what we can't do. Now, I'll never forget my brother always saying to me, Dave, you can do anything you want to do. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I always heard the first part, but didn't hear the second part. And the most important part of this is, you can do affirmations and you can say you want to do everything else and all this other shit you want to do. But if you don't take the action to get there, your affirmation, the universe is going to say, hey, dude, we're ready, but you got to do something. It's like, here's one thing I heard earlier this week, and I think you might like this. People talk about gratitudes, right? How they're grateful for things. And, one of my great mentors and coaches, John Cheplack, I saw at an event this week, and John said, who here does gratitudes? And mostly everybody raised their hand. I said, he goes, you're full of shit. If you say you're grateful for your health, let's get a mirror up and you strip down and you tell me how grateful you are for your health. Right. And think about that one. And that one hit me home. I mean, I've known John for 15 years, and it was just like really hit me home. So, I mean, I do the gratitudes, I do the affirmations, but the thing is taking action. Talk to me about where you're pushing people to take action, or pulling people to take action.
Boy, so many takeaways from what you just said. The last thing, though, about like that gratitude thing and affirmations. Gratitude, one of the core value statements that we've really adopted in a deep, deep core level the last couple of years, and it's even written on the wall here beside me, is to be what we preach. Now, what I mean by that is that we tend to say a lot of things, right? This is what I believe. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to accomplish. But we don't be it, right? And being it is both the action that we take to make it happen, to create the momentum and synchronicities and the feedback and the growth towards it. We need the feedback loops of the failures and the learnings and so forth in order to go towards it. And also, we may have to elevate who we be in order to accomplish it. We may have to elevate our critical thinking ability, our emotional intelligence, our ability to resolve old emotions, our ability to communicate, our ability. There may be so many things that we have to step up who we be in order to even rise to the thing that we're saying. So there's a commitment. We say the phrase around here: decide, commit, and then act. Right? It's three words: decide, commit, act. Right? You have to decide who you are and what you want, and then make a commitment to it. Like John's extremely committed to his health. Right? He's in the gym every single day. It's a commitment that he's made, and then he acts on it. And if you want to give yourself neurologically the best gift you can ever give, it's to take action, because only by action can you give yourself anything to celebrate. Can you give yourself the joy of learning, right? Your brain actually wants to learn. It's designed to create and have new things happen, even though also new can make it freak out. So it's looking for that. So only by taking action is that possible. So I always tell people, it's BS to sit there and do affirmations and gratitude. Same thing, no different than what he's saying, if you're not willing to do the work. Now, here's just something that I want to kind of trigger with that, though. You said something about your brother, how he said all these powerful things to you. And it happens all the time when we're growing up. I shared an example with you the other day about like two kids in a math class. If one math teacher says to one kid, you own 6 businesses, let's imagine a 7-year-old kid, you own 6 businesses, they each make $1 million a year. You get to sell 3 of them. How much money will you make when you sell them? Presuming that they're worth $1 million too, right? And so the kid's like, wow, okay. I mean, their head is like expansive. They're thinking, I own businesses and they make money. And then the other kid, you hand them a math problem and you say, you have 6 apples. You have to sell 3 of them. How many do you have left? The language of those 2 math problems, the answer numerically is exactly the same. However, the language that was used with both of those is extremely different. And I think that's what happens a lot with people and taking action, is that where were they taught early on a belief system that supports them taking action? So for those that don't take action, where you say, I'm grateful for my health, but you don't go to the gym, well, what belief is holding you back from doing that? Where did it start way back where you believed that a certain way, or learned a certain way, that what you're doing is or is not you living towards that thing? And by the way, there's relativity to that, because
Right.
one man over here is going to be a marathon winner and another man over here is just somebody going to get off the couch every day, and neither one of those is wrong, right? I can be grateful for my health and not necessarily be an Olympian, and also I can be grateful for my health and be an Olympian, but potentially not be, because I'm pushing myself too hard. So it's what works for you.
Right. So I get it. It's what works for you. A lot of people look at that phrase, and what works for you is okay, well, this will work for me. And then still there's no accomplishment. There's nothing. But then agree with me if you agree with me. There's people that always look back and don't have a positive feeling about where they've been, whether it's 10 years, 5 years, 5 minutes, or 50 years. How do you help people with that one?
If you spend all of your energy looking into the past, then you're going to repeat exactly what you had in the past. So that's one thing. If I'm hovered on that, then my brain will be wired to repeat exactly what happened before. It's not looking for new ways to do things, to have something different. If I want change, if I want something new in my life compared to what I had, then focusing on the past will only keep me there, right? It's a very depressing place. And when you're in that part of your existence, you're unable to be abundant and grateful, right? Think about affirmations, for example. I love affirmations because, in the sense that, or I make fun of them often with people, is because they'll come up with affirmations that are really a lie to your own brain. And your brain says, well, you're a fool. I am wealthy and you're not. And the brain says, I'm not wealthy, right? Well, the same thing happens when we're focusing on the past, right? We're focusing on things that are no longer true. They had happened. They're not happening now. They had happened once, right? And when we focus on that, then we keep our brain in a place where it's like it's upset and confused, and it doesn't have anything to do but stay in a negative wormhole, right? It'll make you think of everything negative. You have to turn yourself around and think towards what you want. Where do you want to be? How would you like life to be like coming for you, not from the past? And that's a big issue with a lot of people in performance, is that they spend all of their energy, well, this happened and that happened, and not being at cause and saying, well, this person did this to me and that thing happened. That's why I'm here. That's what's happened to me. It's going to happen again, right? And by the way, it will happen again if you stay there.
Right, because that's where your thoughts are. I mean, Amy, how powerful, you just said it, but I want to hit it on the nail on the head. How powerful are one's thoughts when thinking about that? How powerful are they?
Your thoughts are the beginning of everything. What you believe about yourself, the identity that you hold about yourself, right? The unresolved emotions that you allow yourself to wallow in, all of those create narratives in your mind that your brain says, okay, I'll follow those narratives. Like, it's literally giving your brain instructions. That's what all of that does, right? So your thoughts are instructions to your brain, and those instructions are what are going to lead to the behaviors you're going to act on, right? So if I believe I'm a failure because I had a failure at some point, and I adopt the identity that I didn't just have a failure, what happened was, no, I am a failure. And if I have that thought and I have that belief, and then it becomes my identity, now when someone brings me something to do, I may resist doing it or not even even see it. I'm not even able to recognize it because, well, I'm a failure and I'll failure filter, but therefore only allow me to see the things that support that belief. I will only see the evidence that supports that belief. So your thoughts control everything. Your brain is looking for instruction. It's like a little kid. It needs simple instructions. It needs you to tell it where to go and who you want to be. And if we're telling it negative thoughts, then it's going to do negative behaviors, period. Right? There's just no other way around it. So if you want to change your world, change your thoughts. You want to elevate your life, think like the elevated life you want, and then your brain will follow those instructions instead.
We see that and we think, if you want to change your life, change your thoughts. I mean, Amy, that sounds too easy, right? It sounds way too easy. But how do you do that? I know it's a stupid question. I get that. I mean, is there a way that we can concentrate or focus or I mean, is it like, are we going to be diagnosed with some new kind of ADHD, ADD, CDD? I don't know. You tell me.
I by the way, I'm so anti-diagnoses. I'm absolutely anti, and I'll say this because, again, thoughts drive behaviors. How we feel drives our behaviors. So if you believe you have an identity that has restrictions and limitations by the nature of its label, then you will limit your own abilities because you'll lean in on a negative identity and be like, well, I can't go do those things because I'm ADHD. I can't do that because I don't have the ability to focus, because at some point or another, I was willing to acquiesce to the identity. I capitulated to this negative identity that says I don't have focus, therefore I believe I don't have focus, so therefore that's my thought, that's what I do, right? So it is as simple, as cliche as it sounds, it is as simple as changing our thoughts. The reality is you got to do some deep work, right? Guys, we said it earlier, you got to take action. Well, shifting your thoughts is also going to require some action. It's going to require deep work to have deep insights as to who you are, what you want, and what you believe about yourself, and what may or may not be working for you to get to where you want to go. And it's not an easy process. It's going to mean eliminating, shedding, letting go of things. It's going to mean getting out of your own way. It's not a simple process. And also, the question to yourself is, do you want it bad enough? Are you worth it? Do you deserve that? Go for it, right? You only get one life. There's not a second one coming along, so.
It's really interesting. The three words you said that are up in your place are decide, commit, and act, right? So, I mean, I read a book, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called The 4 C's. I think it's the 4 C's, or the 4 C's of commitment. And it all starts with commitment. So when we decide, as you know, CIDE, it means you kill something off, right? Yeah. And I always use the story that you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu and you have, well, I might want the field Parmesan, or I might want the bone-in ribeye, or I might want, spaghetti or something. And then you finally decide what you're going to have. You decide against all the other things. And you need to do this in life. Correct me if I'm wrong. You need to do this in life to make that decision. And then what happens is, whenever you see the waiter or server coming out of the kitchen and it's time for your dinner, you're looking for what you ordered. You're not looking for what you didn't order. You're looking for what you ordered. And when it comes, you're like excited. And then if they put it in front of the wrong person, you actually get a little pissed off and you don't say it, right? But this is like human behavior. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. I love that. I love that example. That's great. Yes.
Right? So that's really a good example. So, but when I look at decide, it really means you need to kick some things out and kick them in the teeth, kick them in the ass, kick them in the nuts. You just have to do that. And when you actually commit to something and you really commit to it, where it might even be painful, it's going to give you the courage that I've got to do this. So I got no freaking choice. I committed to this. And then what it does, as you do that, you clear up in your mind what's got to be done. And as you do it, you see that it wasn't as difficult. And I think that breeds what the last C is confidence. Would you agree with all that stuff I just said?
100%. In fact, I always say there's these 4 corners to the square, like tenacity, resiliency, courage, and confidence. All of those are created only by taking action towards what you want. And also the first action you take, actually, so it's decide, commit, act, meaning act on what you decided on and committed to. However, the decision itself is also an act. It is something you have to do. And so we have a framework that we operate by with a lot of our clients, and they don't always necessarily know I'm working within a framework with them. But one of the very first things we do is what we call the elimination bucket, right? It's everything you're going to eliminate. It's to go through your entire life and decide all the things that are no longer working for you. And I don't just mean the tactical things like shedding relationships or businesses or projects, right? I also mean shedding beliefs about yourself, identities that you hold about yourself, things that don't serve who you want to be and where you want to go. We have to get rid of them and get them out of the way because they're robbing you of energy, of focus, of the ability to be resourceful, innovative, for the ability to have that filter of expectation of when that spaghetti comes out, because that's what you decided on, that's all that you see. And then when it comes to you, the level of enjoyment of achieving it becomes a whole nother bucket as well, because you made all these decisions. You don't have anything else that's distracting you from really enjoying what you've just experienced. So it's all of that works together. You can't grow confidence without taking action to grow confidence from. We can't grow resiliency without having things happen along the way in order for us to get to where we want to go. It tests our merit in every way, right? So the key to all of it, though, is first decide. Now, I had someone earlier ask me, well, how do you decide? Well, that's the hardest part, because the decision comes down to you doing the work to figure out who you are and where you're going and for what purpose, right? Who are you? Where do you want to be and for what purpose? And when I say where, I don't mean like a physical destination or number of real estate deals you want to have accomplished every year. I'm talking about, how do you want to feel? Who will you be? What will you have and hold in the perfect existence where you know with absolute certainty that you have arrived? It's that, right? And that may have nothing to do with real estate or gross commission income, or it may have nothing to do with owning businesses. It may have nothing to do with any of that, right? It's something that's very internal and personal. But get insight, do the insights to figure out what that is.
So we take everything we've talked about in about the last 30 minutes or so, and we look at everything. And okay, so now we're going to put ourselves in a position of a lot of viewers we have, which are real estate agents, mortgage people, brokers, leaders, team leaders, whatever. How do you relate this to the smallest of things where an agent needs to make prospecting calls and they don't do it and they don't know why they are frozen? Is there something, a hack, or is there a reason for this? Or just go off on that if you would.
Oh, 100%. So I will say at a very chunked up level that there's likely a belief that they are not, that's in the way of the goal. And that it could be two ways. One could simply be beliefs about themselves that don't support the result. And the other side of that could be that they simply don't want it. Now, this is super, super important. And we run into this with coaching all the time. And for many, many years of working with people, I would get frustrated. I'm like, why is it that they're not, getting to the next level? What is it that's they have all the resources, they have all the tools, we're giving them all the support, but they're not doing it. And most of the time, it's because they didn't want the results. It wasn't what was in alignment with who they are and what they wanted for their life, right? And for somewhere, they were attaching a belief system around it that was in resistance or direct friction with what they really wanted life to feel or be like. And so it is, do you believe it's possible for you, that you're capable, that you're enough, that you deserve it, that you're worth it? And also, is it what you want? And so I think the first hack really is to do the work as team leaders to elicit from your people where they are in those two centers. We've worked with clients before where they did believe that they could do it. They had all the right belief systems in their identity. And also over here, they didn't want it because they had described it to their own brain. Talk about thoughts. They described it to their own brain in a way that was in resistance with the character of who they are, literally their personality traits. I had one guy who he described everything as work. It's going to be a lot of work, and I got to this, and I got to that. I have to this, and I have to that, right? He was using all of these words that for his personality type, he was a rebel type personality type, that offended his brain. Right? Like his brain was literally like, well, I don't want to work. I don't work. Right. And so all we did was we shifted the language of how he described what he was going to do. And all of a sudden it became a world of creativity and excitement. And now he was ready to go do it. And boom, he got results, right? So it's doing the deep insights with your team members to understand what is their type of how do they receive information? What are they attracted to? How do they make decisions? What kind of personality type are they? Do they have the beliefs that support the result, and do they really want it? And if you'll do that work with them, not only will you empower them, but you'll connect with them at levels that you've never experienced before. And you can eliminate also those that will never be the right fit for the goal they're going after, and eliminate for them the friction and the stress, and eliminate it for yourself as well. And for some people, they aren't the right fit because their beliefs don't match and they don't want it.
So team leaders, brokers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that the team leader, the broker, whatever, has to go a lot deeper to that person, to that agent, has to be more personal, as you may? Would that help?
Yes. Now, I want to clarify that by saying, first of all, they don't have to, but I'm recommending it. I'm saying that you have humans working for you. They are not robots. They are not calculators. They are not, just a KPI for you to measure. They are individuals, and the behavior of getting sales is reliant upon the human that they are. And so if you're unwilling to work with the human at any level to understand what their drivers are, what they're attracted to, what makes them tick, what makes them feel good, and understanding what's in the way, helping them even access for themselves. They may not even be aware themselves where they're in their own way. That's the gift of where you're going to see them elevate their performance, right? And most people are looking for validation and affirmation in ways that this also sustains, right? Even if that's not high on their, Maslow's chart of what they need, almost all humans are still looking for that. We're looking for love. We're looking for status, right? So if you can help accomplish those, you will connect with them at deeper levels than you've ever connected with team members before, right? I'm not saying now to go down the path of overly being a friend or overly empathetic in the sense that you are allowing their issues to be your issues. It's not like that, but it's about you using your empathetic abilities as a leader to figure out where they are at to help them access the most elite version of themselves.
Right. So I think the 2020s compared to the 1990s and early 2000s, for me as an entrepreneur, as a broker owner of many years, not doing that anymore, I see the difference, but I also see the mistakes I made because it's easy to look back, right? Yeah. So when I was a broker owner, I think the biggest problem, the biggest mistake I made was I was their friend more than I was their leader, right? Mm. Where's the fine line in that, Amy? Because to go deep is to know about them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are your friend. Can you help me with that?
And by the way, I've made the same mistake, right? I've done it too, and not to say that I wouldn't repeat that, although I will do my best to not. I get it. It is a fine line. I think the difference for all of you listening, if you're in a managerial role, is that your job is to help them achieve performance. That is your job. Now, that means that you don't cross the line when it comes to accountability, when it comes to holding them at cause and responsible for their result. I years ago had a not so nice nickname given to me. I won't say it because it's got a not so nice word in it. It was given to me with love, and it was all about me being sort of an unempathetic and heartless person. And this was given to me about 20 years ago. And it's because I was a very empathetic and loving person. However, when it came to them getting the result on my team, that was a non-negotiable. I didn't bend on that. Right? They were at cause and responsible to get their result. My job was to help them access their gifts, help them step up and elevate to an elite level where they could. My job was to help give them the resources. My job was to hold them to the result. And so if they would come to me on a Tuesday and they have a bellyache, I would say, I don't care. Right now, does that make me unempathetic? No, because what I cared about was them getting the result. And so basically I would say, well, go find a way to deal with the bellyache and then adjust your schedule such that the hours that you've lost dealing with it can be made up for in whatever capacity you're needing, or get more innovative in how you're going to get the results so that you still get to where you're supposed to be. Let's say Friday's the deadline, right? And what would happen is they'd be mad at me. They'd storm out the door. Oh, she doesn't care. She this, that, and the other. But I did care. And when I held them to that result, when they would walk in on Friday and they'd gotten it, they did it. What did they just learn? They learned that they could push through hard things. They learned that they could be creative. They learned they could be innovative. They learned they could be resilient. They learned that they could have tenacity. They learned that someone cared about the result and cared for them, and that they could teach themselves that they cared about their own wellness and their own results. They cared about themselves. You talk about self-love, right? And so they would celebrate with me and thank me for holding them to the result. And that's, so you have to come out with a little tough love sometimes, but that tough love is what's going to take them to a place where you've given them the best gifts you could ever give them of achievement. Just make sure that you acknowledge that with them. So as managers, acknowledge what they just did, acknowledge the innovations that they put into place, acknowledge where they stepped up and did the extra work if necessary, acknowledge where they got more efficient to make it happen, acknowledge that they pushed through, acknowledge that they showed up, acknowledge that they hit the goal. Like, that's super important. And now from a neuroplasticity standpoint, every time will be easier and easier for them to push through those challenges without hiccups.
Yeah, and you've just solved their problem. If they get it, if they see what you actually did. When I first got into owning my own brokerage, I was completely in the business realm, the entrepreneur realm, where, somebody comes in and say, I got this listing. And I say, great, where's the next one come from? Let's go. And that was a negative, because it wasn't building them up enough on the listing they got. And I didn't blow enough smoke up their ass to get them moving. And they get pissed at me. So I'm saying, wait a minute. So when I would have someone do a great job, I'd say, hey, great job. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going, man. Let's keep building on that success. I believe that the old brokerage models or team models or whatever, I believe they're broken. I believe they suck and they don't work, because it's built on, okay, this is the way we do it, and this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way it's going to be. I see brokerages that started 30 years ago that are still doing shit the same way, right?
Well, it's like that. It's that assembly line, almost like that industrial push type thing, right? Like there's this sweatshop type mentality to a lot of the industry, or has been for a long time. You said something so powerful there, and this happens to high achievers. So I'm speaking to everyone right now that's in the high achiever bucket. If you are a high achiever, you do this to yourself all the time. You very rarely slow down. Somebody goes slow down to go fast. It's one of my favorite phrases, but just to slow down a little bit and to recognize and celebrate your own achievements as you move up the ladder of whatever it is that you're going for. Because I think a lot of high achievers do that. So not only do businesses themselves model around that, which is not hot, because you're pushing, and you're never actually helping them have that moment to anchor in what they've learned about the accomplishment they just had. Right? It's almost like, well, that's not good enough. Well, fine. But where's the next one? And where's the next one? And where's the next one? Well, high achievers, you guys do that to yourselves. High achievers are the worst for doing that. We never stop to celebrate what we just did and what hard decisions we had to make and what tough, things we just went through, or what innovations we just, came up with. We just push to the next thing. And we're bad about doing that and saying, well, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? That was good, but that's not good enough. Now I got to go for bigger and better and bigger and more, instead of really, really centering ourselves on what we just did. Right. So it's not just, I think the model is broken. Sometimes I think we are individually broken in how we look at our own achievements.
When I look at brokerage models, because I'm out there, I made the crazy decision to start a team, and I don't know why, but I did, and I think it's great. I'm excited about it, and it helps me really move forward. And the great thing about it is that what I had before, I'm not going to have now, because I understand that if it's a fit, it's going to work well. If it's not a fit, it's 20 years ago, and I'm not doing that again, right? And one of the things I also realize is that when I hit a goal, and a lot of people don't get this, is when they hit a goal sometimes, great, I hit that goal. How exciting is that? And then they can't hit that goal for another month or 6 months or whatever it is. I've done that. Yeah. And I'm never doing that again, because for me, when I hit a goal or before I hit it, I'm waiting for the next one and the next one. That's just me, wrong or right. That's just me. But I really think that, working with the people that are a right fit from the beginning gives you a much better chance of success. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. So and by the way, too, I've also learned this the hard way, right? We learn,
Right.
and I love talking with you because like you and I've been around a long time. We know the industry inside and out. And so we've had a lot of painful lessons, right? And I love them. All feedback is, all failure is feedback, right? So I want things to happen so I can learn from them. And so I could not repeat them, right? And that is, by the way, how we grow. We grow by not repeating the failures. Failures are not failures at all. They're just simply something we just don't repeat, right? If you repeat it, you didn't learn it. So, but you're saying something super important there. We have to know very clearly what we want for the people on our team. I mean, we're super, super clear ourselves, back to that decide, commit, act thing. So here's the decision. My decision is that this is who will be the right fit for my team and who will not. Having a clear filter coming into the hiring process is super important. Setting the right expectations in the hiring process so that they can filter you, right? Because that's part of it too. You may in fact be an environment and a culture that's totally out of alignment with who they are, and that you couldn't even have elicited in the interview, but they can elicit it the clearer you are about what your expectations and culture is, right? So it's got to be both sides, but get super, super clear about who's going to be the right fit. Because the reality is you can't put a square in a round hole. Or what's one of my favorite phrases about, if you ask a fish to climb a tree, you'll both be frustrated, right?
Yes. You can't judge somebody on their fish on their ability to climb a tree, right?
Right,
Love
because
that.
they're never going to climb one, right? So as a manager, if I need somebody to be super good at sales, but I hire somebody that's an introvert who simply likes spreadsheets, quiet in a dark room, well, I'm never going to get sales out of this individual. So that would be me beating my head against a wall. Why would I do that to myself? So get super clear, do the research, find the people, find the teams and the companies that know how to come in to help you elicit and develop the right profiles of personality and character type, and what skills they bring to the job, or to their experience that they've had. Like, work with teams that can help you do that. The better you have that well defined, the easier the interview processes is. And in fact, even the language in your hiring ad will be better because it will match what you're looking for, so less people will apply that don't fit. So you'll overall decide what works and go find the resources and the professionals that can help you do that.
Here's another question, which is in path with what we're talking about. Can you hire somebody that you don't like?
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to answer that. The answer to that is yes and no. So here, right, I think what it comes down to is somebody going to be a right fit for the core values of what you've established? Are they somebody that's going to be committed to the goal or not, that you trust to fit within your core values, right? Like, it's really a core value decision, right? And for most people, I would say majority of the time, we're going to end up always hiring people that we quote unquote like, in the sense that they are in alignment with our character and our core values and the core values of our company, right? Very rarely are you going to bring someone on and ever feel zero friction if they live by in a way that's opposite of how you think and see life, right? Your model of the world versus their model of the world could be extremely different. However, there could be some areas of a person, for instance, we won't talk politics, but let's just say that you have a political view and you hire someone who has a different political view. Well, you may not like their political view. However, everything else may be in alignment, right? I don't know. I can't answer that. So there's no right or wrong. It's what's right for you. And have you decided what that is? So there.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that, depending on a tolerance level, so to speak. I mean, look, I've met people that are really good or will be really good at this business. And because they have a personality trait that I don't like, I have to question whether they're the right person for my team. Will they be good for the production, and are they good with all the core, are they aligned with all the core values? If the answer to that question is yes, which is what you just said, right, then it might work and then it might not work. So it's still always going to be personality. So okay. So in the real estate business, in a real estate brokerage, what rules will you break? What rules could be rewritten?
Yeah, absolutely. So I I do this whole speech thing, and I talk about the mafia and how, when they built Vegas, right? Like, you talk about breaking a lot of rules. First of all, they're going to go start this multi-million-dollar thing in the middle of the desert. Like, who does that, right? Like, I mean, they talk about breaking rules. I mean, they were doing what nobody else could do, had thought to do, and thought they were crazy to do. And now, if you look at Vegas, it is some of the most, the greatest conglomeration of wealth in the world is centered in Vegas. And also, they've even rewritten the rules of the state of Nevada, right? So
Yeah.
what was to be some crazy random idea by a bunch of criminals, and I'm not saying I agree with all of their tactics or their morals, but I'm saying that they went and broke some rules. So when it comes to real estate, I'm going to say that's where the rule breaking happens on the tactical side. Get innovative, right? Get innovative and resourceful. Yeah. And in fact, right now, there's never been more of an opportunity in history than right now to do that. Everything's on the playing field right now because all the tables got flipped and turned upside down over the last 12 to 14 years. And so you have just this unbelievable opportunity to create something that nobody else has thought to do. And I think about some of the big names and greats that have been, award winners and, top agent in the state kind of thing that have happened over these years. It's always that person that innovated what nobody else had thought to go do. Innovation does take courage, right? But go after that. So that's where the rule breaking, I think, needs to happen. If quit following the status quo. Right. It's sure model excellence. Sure. If the wheel is running, don't reinvent the wheel. If it works, make it work. And also, how can you make that wheel better? Right. How can you make the wheel do even more than everybody thought that it could do? It's like the 4-minute mile, right? Like where could it be even better? And other than that, the rule breaking comes down to who you are. It comes down to you. If you have a certain belief that's not working for you, you better change that belief, change that rule, because you're going to limit your existence. And if you want to go after big things coming up in your career, well, your past will repeat itself unless you're willing to do the work to be a different you for the new result. And that's where you got to break some rules.
Breaking rules means being a maverick, being a pioneer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to, I will admit my failures all the time. I mean, I had an ISA department before anybody knew what an ISA was, right? I had a cloud before anybody knew what a cloud was. Right? My agents could access documents on their phones and they said, holy cow. But it was to my detriment because I didn't get the buy-in. And instead of pushing forward, I wimped out. So my suggestion to everyone, and including what you just said, is to, hey, look, you got the guts to think about it. You got the guts to do it. So that's where you need to roll with it. Yeah. There's just so many things. I mean, I'm sure there are things in your past that you start and say, you know what, I'm going to wait. And then somebody else beats you. Or, talk about that.
Oh my gosh. How many of us have had that moment where we kick ourselves or we're like, oh, I had that idea and so forth, it's going to happen. Don't worry about that. Right. Here's the thing. Again, you have one life to live. Choose the things that are working for you that you want to go after and make the decision. No regrets, right? Make the decision to go do what you're going to do. What you don't do that someone else figures out, great. Go celebrate that. Go talk to them, celebrate what they've done, ask them how they did it, be curious, right? And also remember too, that oftentimes we will make a decision that something we wanted to go do that somebody else did is therefore a reason that you can no longer do it. And that's not always true, is it? I mean, where's the evidence? Who says that that's so? Because, if I go down the street corner down here, I see McDonald's and across the street, I see Burger King, right? Is it just because McDonald's invented this whole hamburger with a drive-through fast food type process, does that mean that nobody else could ever do that? No, there's hundreds of other burger chains. So the reality is that what you didn't do that someone else then went and did means that you could still do it, but maybe you can do it better, right? So the question becomes, is it what you want to do? Does it fit with what you want? Is it in alignment with who you want to be and what you want to accomplish? And if it is, go after it. Maybe you'll invent that hamburger even better than the other guy. So go for it, right? Like, don't allow it to become a rule of limitation that you no longer can.
Absolutely. So it's like people say, well, there's too many realtors in the area. And I say, well, guess what? There's going to be less realtors in the area soon, but that's not the point. The point is that it doesn't matter because there's always going to be, what's there always going to be of? There's always going to be buyers. There's always going to be sellers because let's face it, if you're not renting, you own. Which means that if you're renting, you're a potential buyer. And if you own, you're a potential seller. So there's always people out there that need your services. And, I always heard years ago that there's plenty of business out there. There's plenty of business out there if you want it, if you really and truly want it.
There's no business out there for the people who don't take action. There's no business. In
Right.
fact, if you want to believe that there's no business, we'll sit there and keep saying that, because you sitting there and saying that is going to give you exactly the evidence of the exact truth for you that there is no business. But if you go out there and you start to realize you can generate business everywhere, you said, there's buyers and sellers, they're always buying and selling. Well, to even chunk up higher than that, there's always motivation. There's always somebody needing something that you can help them accomplish. And that's what we do in business, right? And just business in general. The best businesses are the ones that figured out a need and figured out how to solve it, right? And that's what we're doing. And so your job is to go out and solve problems. But you will have zero business if you believe there's zero business. You'll have all the business you can handle if you believe that there's business everywhere. So it's all about shifting how you see the world for a minute, right? If you want to sit around and bellyache, well, then you'll experience what supports that. That's all it comes down to. 100%.
I am hoping that people that have watched this have actually taken notes, because I've taken more notes than I think I have in such a long time. And this has been probably it's a top 10. There's no question about that. And there's 240 of them. So this is a top 10. I want to thank you so much, Amy, for today, for joining the broadcast. And I have a couple of questions and then one thing. So let me ask you the first question. What is one thing? Is there one thing? Oh, yeah. One other thing before we go. Sorry, I lied.
Okay.
If someone concentrates on one thing every time they're doing something, will that help them? Will that benefit them rather than having all these different things they want to do? And how do they do that?
Oh, yeah. No, I love that question. So my answer, again, I'm going to come with a yes or no answer. Here's the thing. Is it bad to have multiple goals or multiple things on your vision board that you're going after, or however it is that you organize that? No, right? And also, when you're working on something, work on one thing, right? Like allow your brain the energy and focus it needs by giving it an unfettered position for that. And so it's really key. So I work with people to get into what we call flow state. And so we try to be very project or very one problem to be solved specific. That way they can really tune everything else out and be able to heighten the amount of focus and energy they have towards that one thing. And what they'll find is that they'll solve it faster and more efficiently. So, it doesn't mean you only have one thing you do in life and only one thing you go after, right? I mean, if you saw my Asana boards, you'd think I had lost my mind as far as all the different projects we have going. But if I'm going to work on something for a certain block of time, I'm working on one thing.
That is honestly, to be completely honest, I got that revelation this week.
Did you? That's great.
I swear to God. I have the book, The One Thing, and I've heard people talk about The One Thing, but I had my current coach say it to me this week, and I talked to someone else at random. I was at an event in Florida this week, and I asked him about something, about how he was able to do what he did. What was his key thing? He says, I do one thing when I'm doing one thing, and nothing else I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else when I'm doing one thing, and nothing else can penetrate, right? That's a great answer. Thank you for that. So,
by the way, it means to everybody, turn everything off. Like if you've got social media notifications or your phone, or like do everything you can to give yourself the ability to focus on one thing. Right. I used to have in my old office environment, I had a glass door, and I put a sign up on my door with little suction cups, like the little things you can use, that would basically say, leave me alone. Right. Because people would come in and out of my door all day. So especially my managers, my sales managers, my team leaders and stuff that are listening. Right. People will bother you all day long because they're in a reactionary state of dealing with customers and clients. And so they've got, there's moving parts. But in order for you to have a block to work on one thing, we have to teach them the expectation that there are times where you are not available. So I used to have what I call the bleeding to death rule, or 911 rule. So the only way that you could get right, I don't want anybody to bleed to death. I reject that for everybody. And
That's exactly what you mean.
Right. But that means that you're going to, now what would it do? It would also encourage them to go get resourceful, innovative, and be problem solvers that they can come back to me with and celebrate the solution they found, which was even better for them neurologically than anything else. And it also enabled me to have blocks of time where I was not constantly interrupted by everyone, where I would go home at night feeling depleted because I didn't move my needle forward on a project because I never got to focus on it. So you've got to train the people around you to allow you that space. 100%.
Right. And just as an aside, I bet every now and then you really thought your first name was Got a Minute. Right?
Yes, I love love that. But that's the thing. They'll stick their head in the door. Hey, you free? Like you're like, no, I'm never free. Like, I even have a coffee cup that would say something like, well, you could pick my brain when the invoice is paid. Like I would literally like just point to it, right? Like, you free? You got a video? Like, no, I don't. You can pay me for my time, but even then I'm not available till tomorrow, right? Like, so it's,
Right.
I tell my managers, my people, like really, really protect yourself. You deserve that. In order for you to be in ecology for yourself, you've got to give yourself that space and grace that you need in order to move the needle forward in your own life, or you end up a highly depressed, miserable manager. And basically the law of the lid problem, if you're a miserable manager, you're going to have a miserable team. So this is all about self-love and self-preservation as much as it is moving your needle forward.
And one of the things that I'm learning to make myself better at that is learning to ask more questions than to give any answers. Right.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so that they know the answer for the most part, especially, if it's agents coming with a question about a deal or something. If they're new, it's one thing. But if they've been doing the business for a while, they really do know the answer. So you ask questions and that makes them think, okay, I got the answer. Thanks. Right. So
And I'll tell you what, that doesn't always rub people the right way, as you
no,
probably
it doesn't.
no, right?
Oh, no,
Especially
it doesn't.
those that don't want to be at cause and don't want to have to do the work, right? That aggravates them, right? But I love it because you talk about teaching them the neuroplasticity of problem solving and for them to be able to build the building blocks to find the other solutions. Real estate is a lot. I love science. It was biochemistry, and everything is just a formula. Math and science, everything's just a formula. If I know the basic formulas, I can build anything, right? And so real estate is really the same way. If I know the basic building blocks, then I can solve anything. And so the reality is that we need them to answer the questions to build their own building blocks so that they can be more efficient and faster and serving their clients in a better and higher way. They need to serve their clients' best interest. And the only way that they can do that is to build the blocks. And they build the blocks by answering questions, not being told what to do. We don't need messengers. We need people who can critically think on their feet. And that is through question asking. So I love that. Love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you get good at asking questions, you will be good at whatever job you have, because that's the way to get to really understand what people are doing. And there's where the empathetic life comes in as well to others.
Yes.
So one question, I have two more questions, and then we'll be done. I promise. We're almost up on the hour. I can't believe it. It's gone so fast. What would you say if there's one thing you could tell people where they could be able to grow their business and take some stress off? What would that be?
Ooh, I'm going to say two things that kind of go together. One is tactical, one's personal. You got to get out of your own way. So, and that's the overarching answer. Get out of your own way. And I'm probably not the most original in answering it that way, but the reality is, one is that on the personal side, we put a lot of crap in the way of like beliefs about how things have to happen and be done that isn't the most efficient and best answer because we just believe it is. And so we don't really want to do the work of changing anything. So we'll step back into how things have worked before and we'll stick there, we'll stay where we're comfortable, we'll be complacent. There's all kinds of negative things that can happen where we just get in our own way. And then the side note of that is on a tactical deployment side, really taking a look at everything you're doing tactically. What can you tactically eliminate that you do? What can you outsource? What can you automate? What can you delegate? And this is super, super important because you're only going to be able to do so much of the business yourself, right?
Right.
This is super empowering for your team members as well. Get out of your own way and allow other people to do things and grow people. Leaders grow leaders. So grow others. And there's nothing more empowering than even a person at the starting level in your team to be able to go to them and say, hey, where can we help you get out of your own way, and give them automated tools or help them delegate or outsource to virtual assistants and so forth. So the way to scale is you have to expand through people. That means getting out of your own way in your belief system and getting out of your own way in what you're tactically doing.
Beautiful. A couple more things and we're done, I promise. How can I, Finale, help you grow your business?
Oh, wow. Great question. I'm all about right now. We want to help as many people as we possibly can step into their authentic self, and from that position, be able to bring that elite version of themselves into everything that they're doing, so that they experience the greatest results and for their lives they ever have. And that is our goal right now. So anybody that or anybody that's listening, if you know someone who is in their own way right now, they've got unresolved emotions. They've got past trauma. They've got bad decisions from the past. They've got goals they want to go after that they're just not going after. They seem stuck, or they're looping back and forth in an place of indecision. Any of those things, those are places where we can help them access that next level of themselves. So, please connect us, send them our way. We'd love to just create as much impact as possible. And in a way that helps you. So if you guys, let's make it full circle. So.
This has been an amazing broadcast. I want to thank you again. And last but certainly not least, I know we tried to connect for a while, but when you found out that you got a hat at the end of the broadcast, I mean, that was the kicker for you to come on, and I want to thank you for that. See, there's the allure of the hat, right? It's really cool. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching today. We have the Travis Tom with us next week, founder and Facebook marketing strategist at Elevate REM. Travis is a really cool guy. This will be his second appearance on the broadcast, and we're really looking to talking with him next week. Amy, thank you so much for being on. We want to tell everybody that the best way to reach Amy is going to be on Instagram at Amy Ransdell _coach. That is the best way to reach Amy, and we look forward to helping as many people as we can. I have a goal this year of helping 100 agents become consistently productive in their business. That is my number one goal. I'm already at 1, so I need 99 more. Let's go.
I would love to be a part of that help. So call us part of your team, and whatever we can do to help you hit that goal would be amazing.
Awesome. Absolutely. Please stay on for a minute. I got a couple of things to go over with you, and then everybody will see you next week with Travis being on. Thank you so much. We'll see you real soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Whoop. I made a mistake. See how good I am with this?